All right, good afternoon, everyone. About a minute still. We're going to give everybody about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll start kicking it off. If you're not speaking, we just ask you to please mute your phone so we don't get a lot of background noise. You can either do that on your handheld device or either clicking the microphone next to your name. If it's green, you're unmuted. If it's red, you're muted. Thank you. All right, it looks, can everyone hear me okay? Graciela, I see you've joined us. Can you just confirm you can see my screen and you can hear me?
Yes, good morning. We can see it and I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. I think we have all of our...
Yes, we can see it and hear you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're right at 11:32, so I just want to make sure we're respectful of everyone's time, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll introduce myself, and then I'll turn it over to our speakers today. I'm Marcy Jackson. I work for the Army Corps of Engineers. We've worked hard this past year on this project, and I won't talk too much about it and turn it over to Graciela soon to kick us off, but just want to take care of a few housekeeping items. If everyone could mute their phones that's not speaking, we'll go through a presentation on our project about the watersheds of the Virgin Islands, and then we will open it up for questions and have our experts and our panelists here to be able to answer any questions. So with that being said, Graciela, I'll kick it over to you to start us off. You're on mute, Graciela. And just let me know when you need me to switch slides.
Okay, my apologies, everyone. Good morning, and thank you to everyone for joining us at this webinar on our educational series of USVI watersheds. My name is Graciela Rivera, and I'm the Territorial Hazard Mitigation Officer at VITEMA. Change slides. The USVI Silver Jacket team is an interagency team dedicated to improving the quality of life, infrastructure, and the environment by making the USVI more resilient to natural disasters. Next slide. Okay, this specific project was funded in October 2020, and for the past year, the USVI Silver Jacket team members have been collaborating on 4 articles with associated maps, pictures, diagrams, and glossaries that explore the concepts and importance of watersheds and watershed management across the United States Virgin Islands. 3 watersheds are going to be presented in a visual example, and these include the St. Thomas Harbor on St. Thomas, Christiansted on St. Croix, and Great Coops Bay on St. John. The ultimate goal here is to increase awareness of watersheds, their importance, and how we as a community have an impact. I will now go ahead, next slide. I will now go ahead and have our esteemed panelists briefly introduce themselves. We're going to start with Mr. Bain.
Good morning. This is Zeno Bain. I'm the USVI Sustainability Advisor, supporting disaster recovery for FEMA on behalf of EPA. I am from St. Croix, born and raised, and happy to be back. Been back about 2 years in this role. Thank you.
Mr. Nieves?
Oh, sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Pedro Nieves. I'm the Geographic Information System Planner for the Department of Land and Natural Resources in the Division of Coastal Zone Management.
Good morning. My name is Hillary Lohman. I'm the Coastal Resilience Coordinator with the Department of Planning and Natural Resources Division of Coastal Zone Management. Thanks for having this. Happy to be here.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Guanel.
Greg, we were having a hard time hearing you. Can you introduce yourself one more time, please?
Yes, good morning. My name is Greg Guanel. I'm the Director for the Caribbean Green Technology Center at UVI.
Thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about why this project is important. Why did we even spend some time on this project? And the reason is because when it rains a lot, things get flooded. This is a picture of Watershed on St. Croix, where there was apparently some form of rain event at some point, and that rain event generated a fair amount of flooding. What that does is it prevents access to places that we like to be or would like to be. It also creates, direct hazard for our life and for our safeties. Cars can get, overrun. People can sometimes drown either in their car or trying to evade or navigate a flooded area. It can damage buildings, houses, and their contents, et cetera, et cetera. And so the question that we were asking ourselves is, number one, how can we prevent that from happening again? And that's the work that Graciela and others on this call are doing day in, day out. But number two, why does it happen? What are the processes? What is it that we are doing that create flooding? Or what are the sort of natural processes that happen that create flooding? And more importantly, what is it that we can do about it moving forward? Not only to mitigate or prevent flooding from happening in the first place, but maybe there's something that we can do not at the site, away from the site. Maybe there are things that we can do that can prevent flooding from happening in a particular place. And so that's the question that we were trying to ask, and that's what led us to create this series of fact sheet to try to educate ourselves and hopefully educate the general community about what are the drivers of flooding and what can we do about it. So next slide. So when we start to embark and solve those questions, the first thing that we started to learn about are what's called watershed. So watershed are those sort of areas that are surrounded by peak line. Watershed is basically a particular geographic regions where when it rains, water from that particular geographic region will concentrate and go down into a particular gut or a few particular guts, and then, end up in the sea eventually. But everything, all the rain that happened, all the process that happened in that particular watershed. Water doesn't cross those boundaries. And so now that we know that water doesn't really cross boundaries, but really staying in that boundary, the question is, what are the processes? What's happening in this watershed, in this sort of pieces of land that drives flooding in some region? And what is it that we can do in this watershed to prevent flooding, not only at the location of interest, but also in other locations in this watershed, because there are a bunch of processes that happen that leads the water through the gut, through the particular location at the end. And so Zeno is going to now present some of the work and some of the result of this education work that we've done and that we're presenting to you now, that sort of help explain a little bit more watershed processes and how those processes lead to flooding. Zeno?
Thank you, Greg. So starting with series 1, this is the first article in the 4-part series, which answers the question, where does the rain go? It explains the fundamentals of a watershed and provides examples from one watershed from each island: St. Thomas Harbor in St. Thomas, Christiansted in St. Croix, and Great Cruz Bay in St. Thomas. As you're likely familiar, these watersheds share many common characteristics, such as mountains and steep terrain, urban development, and natural land cover like plants and trees. When rain falls, several things can happen. In a natural, undeveloped environment, we have all seen that rainfall may be absorbed into the ground and become groundwater. It may be consumed by plants, or it may flow downhill to lower elevations. However, as we continue to develop, this changes the pattern in the way in which water flows, which is something we need to consider. So this section discusses impervious surfaces, which do not allow water to drain through them and into the soil, such as rooftops, often constructed with metal or other waterproof materials, streets often constructed with asphalt, and parking lots often constructed with concrete. The photo on this slide shows examples of a natural and man-made drainage system, which both guide water downhill. One of the key takeaways from series 1 is that everyone lives in a watershed, and the watershed's ability to drain rain effectively is affected by everyone and everything in it, from ridge to reef. Moving on to series 2. Series 2 is the second article, which answers the question, why manage a watershed, and explains why watershed management matters. I'm using the photo from Dr. Guanell on the previous slide and HMP team from UVI, thank you, which very vividly shows flooding in Frederiksted and one reason why it's necessary to manage a watershed. Flood risk can occur when drainage features become obstructed with dirt and debris and no longer provide adequate drainage. The resulting overflow of water can cause flooding as well as soil erosion and damage to infrastructure. However, as described in Series 2, managing a watershed is not only for the purpose of minimizing flood risk, it is also necessary to protect and improve ecosystems and water resources. The surface runoff of stormwater in a watershed affects the quantity and quality of water resources for the community, wildlife, and the coastal and marine areas where the water is discharged. If we do not manage our watershed effectively, it can result in poor water quality, which impacts the health of our community, our animals and livestock, the soil where we grow our food, and the coastal and marine ecosystems that are a source of food and recreation, among other things. Managing a watershed is managing land cover and land use. Land cover is the physical type of land, whether it's forest, wetland, or an impervious concrete surface, as I mentioned in the Series 1. Land use refers to the activities that occur on the land, whether it's natural, undeveloped land, or used for agriculture, industry, or urban development. Managing a watershed is an opportunity to identify sources of water pollution and intervene to improve water quality. As water passes through developed areas, it collects and transports particles and objects, including litter, pet waste, machinery oil, pesticides, fertilizers, and industrial chemicals. To explain this point further, I'm going to try out an analogy. First, give you a quick story. As you may recall, when water used to flow in the streams on St. Croix. As a child after Hurricane Hugo, I was playing in one of these streams along Mahogany Road, and it stirred up, creating some mud in the stream. Families were just around the corner downstream, using the stream as a resource to wash clothes until the mud I created flowed down to them. And we quickly heard, why was the water getting so muddy? Well, of course, as the kids that we avoid getting in trouble and got out of the area pretty quickly. But that a simple example to sort of demonstrate the upstream effect of your actions. So imagine this on a larger scale: soil eroding off a construction site, oil or chemical waste releasing from an industry, or a collection of small amounts of contaminants that the community collectively allows into the watershed, like vehicle oil, pesticides, pet waste. And imagine the effects of that downstream and on the watershed. The water, in my simple example, the water cleared, the mud cleared after some time, and the water could be used. But it could have been, in some other examples that the ones I just provided, it could be much more lasting effects. And some of these effects are not visible to us because the contaminants disperse or dissolve. We also can't think that it doesn't affect us. Again, in my simple example, the effect was downstream. But as we know, in the watershed, we all affected from the activities downstream. It could affect our produce, our marine ecosystems, or recreational activities. So moving on now to Series 3. Series 3 is the third article, which answers the question, how to manage a watershed, and discusses how to balance use and plan for changes. This article explains the fundamentals of how to best manage a watershed for maximum benefits. Watershed management requires the thoughtful consideration and coordination of activities to manage water and promote adequate storage and drainage within a watershed. Maintaining a careful balance between natural land cover and development and using appropriate drainage techniques will help reduce flooding and protect ecosystems and water resources. Many agencies and organizations are responsible for protecting and maintaining clean water and helping to reduce flood risk, but every individual, as my previous example, has the power to make a positive impact, whether and anywhere within the watershed. The coordinated and collective actions by community and watershed partners provide for greater protection of water resources in the Virgin Islands. Development changes land cover and land use and has the greatest impact on water resources and ecosystems. Today, we live with the existing developments of the past, which have contributed to flooding problems, but the choices we make now can help us avoid worsening conditions as development continues in the Virgin Islands. We also have more compounding factors like climate change, which is causing a gradual increase in sea level. Rising sea level reduces the ability for water to drain from coastal areas to the sea and increases flooding caused by storm surges. So a shared goal of watershed management in the VI is to reduce the volume and flow of water that floods and to reduce water pollution in our communities. And this can be managed in a number of methods, for example, by managing the pace, location, and design of new impervious surfaces and expanding green areas with rain gardens and vegetated swales. These engineered features of stormwater infrastructure, such as swales and drainage channels and culverts, are built to route stormwater runoff safely and to prevent flooding, usually on and around roadways. Other naturally designed structures, such as dams and infiltration basins, can increase the amount of rainfall that soaks into the ground and reduce stormwater runoff. And there are many additional benefits of this balanced approach to watershed management. Erosion is reduced, stormwater is filtered, groundwater is recharged, and less sediment and pollutants disperse into our watershed and reach marine systems like our mangroves and coral reefs. Now, the fourth series, Series 4, answers the question, who is responsible for managing watershed? And explains the roles of organizations and the community and how to properly manage watersheds. The short answer is everyone is responsible. for managing watersheds. However, we all have a different role. We have different roles in managing the watershed. Federal agencies set standards for local agencies to implement and enforce as part of their local regulations. For example, DPNR has a number of standards, policies, and guidance that they manage, and they manage several of the federal regulations, such as the FEMA floodplain development standards, the National Flood Insurance Program, which is a collection of floodplain management regulations, policies, and guidance. They manage the EPA Clean Water Act regulations and health standards. And EPA aims to protect and maintain the ecological wholeness of watersheds and habitats to ensure that future generations may enjoy these resources and the social and economic benefits that they provide. Using a watershed approach is considered the most effective way to protect water quality and quantity within the watersheds. And this approach includes stakeholder involvement and management actions supported by sound science and appropriate technology. The NOAA also conducts USVI work on watershed pollutant effect on coastal and marine habitats, which DPNR also uses to guide local actions. The DPW, for example, as we know, is the agency in charge of managing the public stormwater and ensuring that flood risk is reduced. So the DPW is responsible for designing, building, and maintaining public roads and associated stormwater infrastructure. And there's a number of opportunities with the federal disaster funds from FEMA that are managed through VITEMA and ODR, and a number of funding opportunities such as FEMA public assistance and hazard mitigation grant programs. And there's several community organizations that are also playing a role in managing watersheds, like the Coral Bay Community Council, the VI Trail Alliance. A number of these agencies and organizations are discussed within Section 4. But again, it comes back to, I think a big part of this is getting the message across to the community and how the community can also play a role, and how everyone can play a role in watershed management, and using the resources provided by our local agencies such as DPNR, and some of the other ideas that we've touched on, such as minimizing paving of a yard and property, considering permeable pavers, brickwork or gravel instead, which improve the water infiltration, the collection of rainwater for secondary household use. And as you know, here in the territory, we're ahead of that, in that we collect a lot of our water within cisterns. But there are a number of other methods that we can use to improve. So I'll stop there, and a lot more is available within these 4 articles. Thank you. And in addition to the articles, we also have glossaries at the end of each article, and one composite glossary that's available as well within the articles to help you understand many of the terms that are used, and links to more information about watersheds from a number of our local and federal partners.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Payne, for guiding us into this placement maps. We're excited to have these placement maps. Again, my name is Pedro Neves and the JS planner for DPNR CZM. And I want to also thank our partners that created these maps, where we showcase the elements involved in a watershed. And we choose these watersheds just to exaggerate and exemplify the connections between the elements of a watershed. And I wanted to just bring your attention to the graphic concept, which is on the green cartoon looking graphic. So this is, we're trying to just simply exaggerate the elements of land cover and its use along the watershed, and the interaction between what's driving the impact. And this is being done by well, the driving force for this watershed is actually the rain. And so where the rain go was one of the first questions that we had. And so the rain accumulates in the natural drainage system of a watershed, which then become altered when human development, massage and develop the landscape to their benefits and to the recreational use of the community as well. And every other infrastructure involved in the development of a watershed and the community. There is a connection between the watershed and the community, and that's why you can't just speak one without the other. And so we created these place maps as a way of when you go to the website, you can print these out in a regular 11 by 17 format paper, and I think we are actually having uh, these produced by the team. However, I just wanted to show you that the one of the reasons why we did this project is that we have to understand the way the interaction between the different elements of a watershed take place. And so to do this, we need data, and data is collected remotely. We're using remote sensing data or on the ground collecting surveys and using instruments to monitor the different parameters being observed. And all of this is being collected in a GIS system. And so when you have everything collected in the GIS system, which then it turns into a geodatabase, you can then see and kind of do the holistic approach of a watershed and make the connection between the upland, the ridge, down to the bay, the shoreline, the coastline, and into the reef. And we have the different examples of the land cover for the pictures of these different land covers that make these impact in the drainage system. If in the aerial photograph of the St. Thomas Harbor watershed, the yellow outline is what encompass the St. Thomas Harbor watershed. This being the capital of the Virgin Islands, and is also the city area, one would say. And so there's a lot of interaction and the different kind of uses in this just one watershed. And so using this type of information makes a better understanding of the interaction between and the impact being done by the different use of the land cover. This being, next slide, I want to go to St. Croix. We choose Christiansted because of the similar use and infrastructure. And one could argue that in the graphic that when it does rain and we have significant flood events, the water around the coastline are no longer as blue and transparent and pristine. You see a lot of sediment plumes smothering the reef. And so that's why we really need to take into consideration the things that we do in our watershed. Now, there are, even within our agencies, we look at where you are in a watershed. So which watershed are you affecting? Which bay are you impacting? Which gut is closest to you and that network of the gut. And so all that information gives you a better understanding of your environment and makes you have the information you need to make better decisions. And so the next slide, we have, I think it's St. John. Yep. And in St. John, we use the Great Cruise Bay watershed. I want to point out that these sub-watersheds are part of the bigger 14-digit, what is called the USGS watershed. And it was adopted in 1979, I think it was, that the DPNR Commission consultation for the sedimentation reduction plan, and that's how we got the name sub-watershed for the Virgin Islands. So this one being Cruise Bay sub-watershed. And this is the delineation of the yellow outline shows the delineation of the watershed. Back in 1979, now they do have some changes, not big ones, but some areas of the line may change according to the different land use changes and land cover changes. This particular one, if those in the Virgin Islands know that the coastline, right where the ferry dock currently is located, was an enclosed bay, and you may notice that the line actually crossed the bay in that area, whereas in the graphics image, that ferry dock is wide open, and you can see that there's not a line going across that area. So this is just a show of things that change in our coastline, and we have to consider its impact now and in the future. And so just quick overview of these placemats. These placemats are actually back and front, and this is one side have the aerial photograph, the other side has the graphic information in it. And if you have any questions about any of these placemats, feel free to ask those questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you, and I'll pass it along to our next presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, when we began constructing these, the placemats and the articles, you know, the point in mind is really to provide the community with an idea of how watersheds work. So we hope that these packages will be used in educational settings. Agencies will utilize them in their day-to-day work, for orientation for new employees, or for people who just need an overview on watersheds and how they function. And of course, for the general community, you know, as we've heard from our presenters, we can definitely see that everything is connected. Everyone plays a role in watershed management, and the point is to provide information so that the community can make better decisions, so that when we take this information into the classrooms, or we provide these documents to our students, they now have the knowledge to make better decisions in their day-to-day lives, and as they grow up and they become community members. So we want to make sure that that we share this in. I'm sorry, is someone asking a question? So we want to make sure again that, you know, that these tools are utilized again for educational purposes in our agencies, local agencies, federal agencies, so that there's a point of reference even for those who are not from the territory, so that they can get an idea of how watersheds work within our community.
Because they use it.
I think someone's mic is on, so please don't forget to mute your mic. Next slide, please. As Graciela Ms. Rivera was mentioning in the beginning of our presentation, that there are many agencies that played an active role in creating these packages. There are over 10 agencies, local and federal, whom we met several times. Several is, I think, a little bit of an understatement, many times over the course of the year in an effort to create this final product that would be useful for our community and for those who may not be familiar with the territory. So there was extensive review from each party, lots of time and agency resources, and the expertise that each agency brought to the project was immeasurable. We had members from NOAA, Mr. McComb, who really drove the beginning formats of the placemats, DPNR, Ms. Lohman, who really guided the beginning parts of the articles along with Mr. Guanel. So it was really a team effort, excuse me, in putting this package together. And we want to thank you all for attending, and just again reiterating, you know, how thankful we are for everyone who participated in the final creation of the package. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Hillary for the next slide.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone, now that it's 12:04. So I am Hillary Lohman. I'm the Coastal Resilience Coordinator with the Department of Planning and Natural Resources. And I just wanted to close out, maybe get ahead of some of the questions. So that's great. And what are different agencies in the territories doing about a watershed approach? DPNR, Department of Planning and Natural Resources, actually started the watershed approach years ago, incrementally. We started the first watershed plans for the 2 marine protected areas, so St. Thomas East End Reserves and the East End Marine Park in St. Croix, and other areas with critical impacts to the coastal zone, being Fish Bay in St. John and Smith Bay in St. Thomas. Now, that is just the foundation from which we understood early that this matters, but we wanted to start small and see what a watershed approach would look like. And now, fast forward, this partnership, but other instances such as the federal funding awards from post-2017 hurricanes meant that DPNR got a sub-award through VITEMA. So thanks to VITEMA and ODR for finding this a valuable and important piece of work. We put in, and we are now characterizing 8 watersheds through a FEMA hazard mitigation sub-award to study a number of the major watersheds in the territory and provide recommendations for improved watershed management. So here, this image, these are all the watersheds of the territory that we introduced earlier to understand at an island level, how many watersheds per island, and the ones outlined in black with labels are the ones of focus right now for our hazard mitigation study. And so for St. Croix, these are the 5 watersheds. They cross the midsection of St. Croix like a belt, I like to think of it. They make up almost 50% of the land of the island of St. Croix and include areas of agriculture, undeveloped forest, and as well as commercial centers and obviously industrial zones. The 3 watersheds in St. Thomas include critical infrastructure like the airport, the Charlotte Amalie and St. Thomas Harbor, and the Belongo Basin. So this project, when we wrap up in next year, early 2022, the project will result in 8 new watershed management plans, 16 recommended major improvement projects, each with preliminary designs and budgets, as well as dozens of smaller, but still very specific improvement ideas. And also, this project will include or wrap up with having completed the most comprehensive water sampling and analysis in the gut system of the VI to date. So this is taking a much bigger bite out of the type of approach that DPNR has dabbled in before. And it's really exciting to have this Silver Jackets collaborative initiative kind of work together to build that foundation of what are watersheds and why do they matter, on top of which DPNR can leverage that to introduce through products like this and others to agency partners, to community members, all sorts of stakeholders, funding agencies, different agencies to connect the dots along the way of why the watershed management approach would matter. Because when we come out with these recommendations, it's planning and natural resources, the planning agency is going to go right back to the same partners here, continue to work together to ensure that the right parts of the plans are shared with the right agencies like ODR and VITEMA and Public Works and Waste Management Authority to advance the collaborative watershed management approach and get the plans to the next step of design, funding, and implementation. There are also definitely other partners undertaking watershed studies and improvement projects in the territory, like the Department of Public Works and community groups like Coral Bay and the VI Trail Alliance. And DPNR is definitely always grateful and excited to support their work. So thanks to the team here and partners. Thanks everyone for being here at this webinar. And I believe we'll now open the floor to questions about everything from the articles to place maps, everything you've seen here today. So thanks.
Thank you, Hillary, and thanks to all the presenters today. We're just going to open the floor up for any questions that anyone may have. We have a chat function, or you can unmute yourself, and sometimes we get double muted both on your phone and the web. So if you make sure your microphone is green if you have a question, and make sure your phone is also unmuted. We'll open the floor up now for anyone that has questions, or you can put your question in the chat and we'll monitor that and try to answer them that way as well. So we'll just open it up now if anybody has any comments or questions for the presenters today.
Good afternoon. This is Barbara from the VI Trail Alliance. Thank you for this great presentation. I'm curious where we could get these materials. I wasn't aware of the placemats and that type of thing. So if you could let us know how we can get these materials out to people in our circle, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can answer that for you real quick, and I can also send this link as well. So if you see the link on the bottom of this page, it's pretty long, and we apologize for that, but we will email this link out, and I'll write your name. Is this Barbara Walsh?
Yes, correct. Barbara Walsh.
Okay. All right, I will email that out to you and making sure you get it. But we have a website that's dedicated to the Silver Jackets USVI team, and all of our all of our materials from this project are posted there, and you can download them from that website.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Martha, this is Zeno. When I was testing the website yesterday, just as a note to anyone, if you go to the website, you may have to, there's a drop down that says select team, so you may have to just select Virgin Islands to actually get you to the page.
Thanks, Zeno. Yeah, Larissa also put the website in the chat, so if you go to the chat, you can copy and paste that website, and that should lead you directly to the page.
Hello, this is Donna
Yeah.
Sambalakana. I was very happy to be here and to see all this today. I almost wasn't able to be here, so I'm just thrilled. And everything that was presented here today, has great meaning. And earlier Zeno mentioned about, Hurricane Hugo, and there was been many hurricanes after that. And, since we're always dealing with, Mother Nature, whose power is so great, we really need all people to be smart about how we manage watersheds for drinking, fishing, and swimming, and about the placement of chemicals and contaminants so that we can stay healthy. And we're hoping that everybody learns from this webinar. And I was very, very happy to work with all of you on it. And I hope that everybody can progress and move forward with it and use it to your advantage.
Thank you, Donna. Great working with you as well. We appreciate your effort.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Donna's sentiments and everyone. I'm really so happy to work with this group. I was so impressed with the collaboration, and really excited about the final product and looking forward to the public engagement and more great things like this to come.
Thank you.
Good afternoon again, everyone. This is Larissa Ellis with ODR. I just want to mention that if your agency is interested in participating or being a member of the Silver Jackets team, please feel free to contact us via our website so that we can add you to the group and get you, have you participate and engage with us.
Good morning,
All right.
everyone. Again, this is Graciela Rivera. Since I doesn't seem to have any more questions, but I did want to also throw out to to all the attendees, if there are any activities or anything else that you guys are doing that are pertinent to this same type of activity, please feel free to share with us, because we're definitely interested in having momentum with this project and ensuring that we can maximize community engagement and awareness as much as possible.
And I'll just add on to that too, just how the Silver Jackets team is set up. We've been meeting pretty frequently to finish out this project that's starting in the new calendar year. The team will begin meeting quarterly. So if you, like Larissa and Graciela both said, if you want to be added or share anything with this interagency team, please reach out and so we can get you connected. And I think I may have cut someone off. Did someone have a question or want to say something?
This is Louis Day, CCO and TILS for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I think there's really good content in this presentation that we'll be able to share with publics for awareness, and that would be good to share across all the agencies and participants that we have right now. Because I've learned so much. This is the first time that I actually see a full presentation reference to Silver Jackets, and I've heard of it before, but this presentation actually opened my mind to it. So I really enjoyed it, and I want to congratulate all the presenters for doing an awesome job.
Thank you, Luis. And we will, just so everybody's awareness, we will get this probably in the next week, try to get this presentation also posted to the Silver Jacket website for the USVI. If you just Google also USVI Silver Jackets, it will also link you. It's pretty easy to find theirs too. So if you can't, it's a hard email or website to remember, so it comes up pretty quick in Google as well. If you just Google USVI Silver Jackets, you can find it. And we'll post this presentation there on the website along with all the materials. All right, well, I'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes just in case someone has anything that they want to ask. And then if not, I definitely, thank all of the presenters and all of the agencies and all of the partners and team members that help us, this team put this together. It was definitely a collaborative effort, and we hope this will be useful to those that, want to go use this information, agencies, the community, and, for any education. So we definitely, are here to answer questions. There's contact information on the website as well, and definitely appreciate all your time and effort that was put into this project.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's a wrap. Thank you for allowing us to present. Have a good afternoon.
No, thank you for all the
thank
support
you.
you provided. It was deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Did we
Anytime.
record this? We didn't record this, right? Presentation.
Yes, I did. I hit the record button. I'm hoping it got everything, so I will keep everyone tuned. If it did record, then I will also send that out to all of the presenters today so you can distribute it or have it, and we can decide if we want to, post that as well on the website. So I really appreciate all of your help and your dedication to making this project complete.
Thank you too.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.